Welcome back to the desk. Today we take on two stubborn questions. Why has religion grown louder, not quieter, in the modern world? And why does untouchability survive inside the most modern of institutions? This is the Sociology Desk, issue 020. Two events, and for each, the concept, the thinkers, and the precise way to write it. So your answer reaches the 19-mark band. Let us begin. Our first event. The latest Pew Religion report places India among just 6 countries in the very high social hostilities band, alongside states like Nigeria and Pakistan, and notes that elevated religious restrictions now touch some 78% of the world's population. Where does this sit? Paper 1. Religion and Society, Secularization and Revivalism. The weak candidate laments rising intolerance. You will say something the examiner respects? This data inverts the classical secularization thesis. So how do you open? Not with a complaint about communalism. Open with the structural claim. The classical secularization thesis predicted that modernity would shrink religion's public presence. And this data falsifies that prediction. Religion has not withered. It has returned to the public sphere, often as ideology rather than private faith. That reframing puts you on meta-theoretical ground, testing a classical theory against the present. Exactly what the new question patterns reward. Two anchors. Emile Durkheim reframes mob violence against a minority, not as mere aberration, but as boundary work. The community ritually performs its sacred core by purging the profane other. Hostility as a dark form of solidarity. And Ashis Nandy draws the precise Indian distinction between religion as faith, which is plural and tolerant, and religion as ideology, which is doctrinal and statist. What is rising, Nandy would say, is not religiosity, but religion as ideology, a colonial inheritance that homogenizes the plural self. Add Jurgen Habermas and the idea of the post-secular society. Habermas accepts that religion has not vanished from public life and argues that a post-secular democracy must translate religious claims into shared, communicative reason, rather than letting them be enforced through coercion. So the task is not to wish religion back into the private sphere. It is to build a public sphere where religious and secular citizens can reason together. That is the forward-looking frame the examiner wants. How to write it for marks? The 14-mark script describes rising intolerance and calls for harmony. The 19-mark script opens with the secularization thesis inverted, deploys Durkheim's boundary work to explain hostility as solidarity, Nandy's faith versus ideology distinction for the Indian diagnosis, and Habermas on the post-secular public sphere as the way forward. Use the pew placement as evidence, not as lament. It closes on the meta-theoretical point. Secularization was not the disappearance of religion, but its reorganization. Testing the classical theory, not narrating the news, is what scores 19. Expect this. 20 marks. Paper 1. Is the classical secularization thesis still valid in the present context? Critically assess in the light of recent global data on religious hostility. Hold Durkheim, Nandy and Habermas, and the answer is yours. Our second event. New university equity regulations require institutions to root out caste discrimination, and a vocal dominant caste backlash has framed these rules as anti-savarna, with the Supreme Court calling the language vague. Where does this sit? Paper 2. The caste system, untouchability, and its perspectives. The weak candidate treats it as a campus policy row. You will say something sharper. Untouchability is not a village relic. It is reproduced inside the modern institution through the language of merit. So how do you open? Not with the policy debate. Open with the structural claim. Untouchability in modern India is not a ritual residue of the village. It is a graded inequality reproduced through the institutional vocabulary of merit. The neutral language of merit can quietly encode prior advantage. That framing tells the examiner, you read the modern institution itself as a site of caste, not its cure. Two anchors. B.R. Ambedkar insisted that abolishing untouchability on paper under Article 17 would be hollow without constitutional morality, an internalized disposition to read equality as substantive, not merely formal. And Sukhadeo Thorat supplies the evidence. His inquiries into elite institutions show that scheduled caste and scheduled tribe students face exclusion, not in spite of merit-based spaces but precisely through them, through hostile segregation, viva voce discretion, and informal networks. The institution itself produces the hostility. Now, the sharpest reading of the backlash, Pierre Bourdieu, and symbolic violence. When the dominant caste experiences a remedial regulation as an attack on innocent students, that is symbolic violence. The privileged group misrecognizes the laws of an unearned advantage as discrimination against itself, because that advantage was always disguised as merit. As Bourdieu would say, the structurally dominant feel wronged the moment their hidden privilege is named. Add Bethel's reminder. A republic where formal status and real position diverge requires legal intervention, not majoritarian common sense. How to write it for marks? The 14-mark script debates whether the equity rules are fair. The 19-mark script opens with untouchability, reproduced through the vocabulary of merit, deploys Ambedkar on constitutional morality, Thorat's evidence of exclusion inside elite institutions, and Bourdieu's symbolic violence to explain the dominant caste backlash. It uses the vagueness ruling and the backlash as evidence. It closes on Bethel. A constitutional republic must correct the gap between formal and substantive equality through law. Explaining the backlash with symbolic violence, rather than merely deploring it, is what scores 19. Expect this. 20 marks. Paper 2. Critically examine the claim that untouchability persists in modern Indian institutions through the language of merit. Hold Ambedkar, Thorat, and Bourdieu, and the answer is yours in 250 disciplined words. Let us revise. 1. The pure religion data, read through Durkheim's boundary work, Nandy's faith versus ideology, and Habermas on the post-secular society, the secularization thesis inverted. 2. The university equity backlash, read through Ambedkar's constitutional morality, Thorat's evidence, and Bourdieu's symbolic violence, untouchability inside the modern institution, and the rule that decides your rank. Treat the event as evidence and make the theory the destination. That is today's brief. If you would like the full answer blocks and model answers for these events, just leave your email in the comments or write to us at team@upsc.com and our team will share the subscription details. I wish you the very best with your preparation. And remember, this preparation is a long road, but every concept you truly master today is a mark you have already earned for tomorrow. Keep going. I will see you tomorrow.